Start recording. So, welcome everyone. So glad we're together. We're going to immerse ourselves in this rich body of wisdom. Torah. We're not only going to sustain ourselves, nurture ourselves, drink from this rich body of wisdom. We're also going to resupply it with that nurturing. We're going to resupply it with our own feelings and thoughts and reflections. So we're going to read through this week's portion, which is actually a double portion, Behar-Bechukotai. It's in the book of Leviticus. It starts out with chapter 25. It goes all the way through the end of the book of Leviticus. So we'll have a special word of thanks to give at the end. And if you'd like to join me in saying a blessing that gives thanks for the fact that we are together and we are immersing ourselves and we are contributing to this great flow of wisdom, please feel free to join me. Baruch atah
Adonai, Elohim melech haolam, asher kiddushanu mitzvotav, azot divrei Torah.
Thank you. Immerse ourselves in this rich body of wisdom we call Torah. It is a wisdom of words, it's a wisdom of deeds, and it's a wisdom about relationships. So I will share with you the opening verses of our Torah portion, and I'll invite others to have an opportunity to read as well. God spoke to Moses on Mount Sinai. Speak to the Israelite people and say to them, when you enter the land that I assign to you, the land shall observe a Sabbath of Adonai. 6 years you may sow your field, and 6 years you may prune your vineyard and gather in the yield. But in the 7th year, the land shall have a Sabbath of complete rest, a Sabbath of Adonai. You shall not sow your field or prune your vineyard. You shall not reap the aftergrowth of your harvest or gather the grapes of your untrimmed vines. It shall be a year of complete rest for the land. But you may eat whatever the land during its Sabbath will produce. You, your male and female slaves, the hired and bound laborers who live with you, and your cattle and the beasts in your land may eat all its yield. You shall count off 7 weeks of years, 7 times 7 years, so that the period of 7 weeks of years gives you a total of 49 years. Then you shall sound the horn loud in the 7th month, on the 10th day of the month, the Day of Atonement. You shall have the horn sounded throughout your land, and you shall hallow the 50th year. You shall proclaim release throughout the land for all its inhabitants. It shall be a jubilee for you. Each of you shall return to his holding, and each of you shall return to his family. That 50th year shall be a jubilee for you. You shall not sow, neither shall you reap the aftergrowth or harvest the untrimmed vines, for it is a jubilee. It shall be holy to you, and you may only eat the growth direct from the field. Richard read verse 13.
Thank you. In this year of Jubilee, each of you shall return to his holding. When you sell property to your neighbor or buy any from your neighbor, you shall not wrong one another. In buying from your neighbor, you shall deduct only for the number of years since the Jubilee. And in selling to you, he shall charge you only for the remaining crop yield. The more such years, the higher the price you pay. The fewer such years, the lower the price for what he is selling you as a number of harvests. Do not wrong one another, but fear your God. For I, the Lord, am your God. You shall observe my laws and faithfully keep my rules, that you may live upon the land in security. The land shall yield its fruit, and you shall eat your fill, and you shall live upon it in security. And should you ask, what are we to eat in the 7th year, if we may neither sow nor gather in our crops. I will ordain my blessings for you in the 6th year, so that it shall yield a crop sufficient for 3 years. When you sow in the 8th year, you will be eating old grain of that crop. You will be eating the old until the month until the 9th year, until its crops come in. But the land must not be sold beyond reclaim, for the land is mine. You are but strangers, resident with me. Throughout the land that you hold, you must provide for the redemption of the land.
Thank you. Mark Levinstein, we're at verse 25, if you'd like to read a little bit. And you'll have to unmute.
I guess I was unmuted and muted myself, which might have been a good idea. Let's see, 25. If your kinsman is in straits and has to sell part of his holding, his nearest redeemer shall come and redeem what his kinsman has sold. If a man has no one to redeem for him, but prospers and acquires enough to redeem with, he shall compute the years since its sale, refund the difference to the man whom he sold it, and return to his holdings. If he lacks sufficient means to recover it, what he sold shall remain with the purchaser until the Jubilee. In the Jubilee year it shall be released, and he shall return to his holding. If a man sells a dwelling house in a walled city, it may be redeemed until a year has elapsed since its sale. The redemption period shall be a year. If it is not redeemed before a full year has elapsed, the house in the walled city shall pass to the purchaser beyond reclaims throughout the ages. It shall not be released in the Jubilee. But houses and villages that have no encircling wall shall be classified as open country. They may be redeemed, and they shall be released through the Jubilee. As for the cities of the Levites, the houses in the cities they hold, the Levites shall forever have the right of redemption. Such property as may be redeemed from the Levites, houses sold in the city they hold, shall be released through the Jubilee. For the houses in the cities of the Levites are their holdings among the Israelites. But the unenclosed land about their cities cannot be sold, for that is their holding for all time.
Thank you, Mark. Margot, we're at verse 35, if you'd like to read a little bit.
If your kinsman being in straits comes under your authority, and you hold him as though a resident alien, let him live by your side. Do not exact from him. Do not exact from him and advance or accrued interest, but fear your God. Let him live by your side as your kinsman. Do not lend him your money at advance interest, or give him your food for advanced interest. I, the Lord, am your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt to give you the land of Canaan, to be your God. If your kinsman under you continues in straits and must give himself over to you, do not subject him to the treatment of a slave. He shall remain with you as a hired or bound laborer. He shall serve with you only until the Jubilee year. Then he and his children with him shall be free of your authority. He shall go back to his family and return to his ancestral holdings, for they are my servants whom I freed from the land of Egypt, and may not give themselves over into servitude. You shall rule over him. You shall not rule over him ruthlessly. You shall fear your God. Such male and female slaves as you may have, it is from nations round about you, that you may acquire male and female slaves. You may also buy them from among the children of alien residents among you, or from their families, or from their families that are among you, whom they begot in your land. These shall become your property. You may keep them as possessions for your children after you, for them to inherit as property for all time. Such you may treat as slaves, but as for your Israelite kinsmen, no one shall rule ruthlessly over the other.
Thank you, Margot. Jim, we're now at verse 47, if you'd like to read.
Thank you, Rabbi. If a resident alien among you has prospered, and your kinsman being in straits, come under his authority and gives himself over to the resident alien among you, or to an offshoot of an alien's family, he shall have the right of redemption, even after he has given himself over. One of his kinsmen shall redeem him, or his uncle or his uncle's son shall redeem him, or any one of his family who is of his own flesh shall redeem him, or if he prospers, he may redeem himself. He shall compute with the purchaser the total from the year he gave himself over to him until the Jubilee year. The price of his sale shall be applied to the number of years, as though it were for a term as a hired laborer under the other's authority. If many years remain, he shall pay back for his redemption in proportion to his purchase price. And a few years remain until the Jubilee year, he shall so compute. He shall make payment for his redemption according to the years involved. He shall be under his authority as a laborer hired by the year. He shall not rule ruthlessly over him in your sight. If he has not been redeemed in any of those ways, he and his children with him shall go free in the Jubilee year. For it is to me that the Israelites are servants. They are my servants, whom I freed from the land of Egypt. I, Adonai, your God.
Thank you so much. Carl, we're starting chapter 26, if you'd like to read a little bit.
Thank you, Rabbi. You shall not make idols for yourselves, or set up for yourselves carved images or pillars, or placed figured stones in your land to worship upon. For I, Adonai, am your God. You shall keep my Sabbath and venerate my sanctuary, mine's Adonai. I can't pronounce that next word.
Name Bechukotai is the name of the.
Yeah, Behar-Bechukotai. Okay, thank you. If you follow my laws and faithfully observe my commandments, I will grant you your rains in their season, so that the earth shall yield its produce, and the trees of the field their fruit. Your threshing shall overtake the vintage, and your vintage shall overtake the sowing. You shall eat your fill of bread and dwell securely in your land. I will grant peace in the land, and you shall lie down untroubled by anyone. I will give the land respite from vicious beasts, and no sword shall cross your land. You shall give chase to your enemies, and they shall fall before you by the sword. 5 of you shall give chase to the 100, and 100 of you shall give chase to 10,000. Your enemies shall fall before you by the sword. I will look with favor upon you, and make you fertile and multiply you, and I will maintain my covenant with you. You shall eat old grain long stored, and you shall have to clear out the old to make room for the new. I will establish my abode in your midst, and I will not spurn you. I will be ever present in your midst. I will be your God, and you shall be my people. I, Adonai, am your God, who brought you out of the land of the Egyptians to be their slaves no more, who broke the bars of your yoke and made you walk erect.
Thank you. Thank you, Carl. Justin and Linda, if you'd like to read, we're at verse 14.
Thank you, Rabbi.
But if you do not listen to me, and you do not perform all these commandments, and if you despise my statutes and reject my ordinances, not performing any of my commandments, thereby breaking my covenant, then I too will do the same to you. I will order upon you shock, consumption, fever, diseases that cause hopeless longing and depression. You will sow your seed in vain, and your enemies will eat it. I will set my attention against you, and you'll be smitten before your enemies. Your enemies will rule over you, you will flee, but no one. And if during these you will not listen to me, I will add another 7 punishments for your sins. I will break the pride of your strength and make your skies like iron and your land like copper. Your strength will be expended in vain. Your land will not yield its produce, neither will the tree of the earth give forth its fruit. And if you treat me as happenstance, and you do not wish to listen to me, I will add 7 punishments corresponding to your sins.
I'll incite the wild beasts of the field against you, and they'll bereave you and utterly destroy your livestock, diminish you, and your roads will become desolate. And if, through these, you'll still not be chastised, to return to me, and if you continue to treat me happenstance, then I too will treat you as happenstance. I will again add 7 punishments for your sins. I'll bring upon you an army that avenges the avenging of a covenant, and you will gather into your cities, and I'll incite a plague in your midst, and you'll be delivered into your enemies' hands. And when I break for you the staff of bread, and 10 women will bake your bread in one oven, they will bring back your bread by weight, and you will eat, and yet you'll not be satisfied. And if, despite this, you still don't listen to me, still treating me as happenstance, I'll treat you with a fury of happenstance, adding again 7 chastisements for your sins. You'll eat the flesh of your sons, and the flesh of your daughters you'll eat. I'll demolish your edifices and cut down your sun idols. I'll make your corpses fall upon the corpses of your idols, and my spirit will reject you. I'll lay your cities to waste, and I'll make your holy places desolate, and I will not partake in your pleasant fragrances. And I'll make the land desolate, so that it will become desolate also of your enemies who live in it. And I'll scatter you among the nations, and I will unsheath the sword after you, and your land will be desolate, and your cities will be laid waste.
Thank you both. Thank you both. And then Robert, we're going to continue there at verse 34 if we'd like to read.
Yes, thank you so much. Then shall the land enjoy her Sabbaths, as long as it lieth desolate, and ye be in your enemy's land. Even then shall the land rest and enjoy her Sabbaths. As long as it lieth desolate, it shall rest, because it did not rest in your Sabbaths when ye dwelt upon it. And upon them that are left alive of you, I will send a faintness into their hearts in the lands of their enemies, and the sound of a shaken leaf shall chase them, and they shall flee as fleeing from a sword, and they shall fall when none pursueth. And they shall fall one upon another, as it were before a sword, when none pursueth, and ye shall have no power to stand before your enemies. And ye shall perish among the heathen, and the land of your enemies shall eat you up. And they that are left of you shall pine away in their iniquity in their enemies' lands. and also in the iniquities of their fathers shall they pine away with them. If they shall confess their iniquity and the iniquity of their fathers, with their trespass which they trespassed against me, and that also they have walked contrary unto me, and that I also have walked contrary unto them, and have brought them into the land of their enemies, if then their uncircumcised hearts be humbled, and they then accept of the punishment of their iniquity, then will I remember my covenant with Jacob, and also my covenant with Isaac, and also my covenant with Abraham will I remember, and I will remember the land. The land also shall be left of them, and shall enjoy her Sabbaths, while she lieth desolate without them. And they shall accept of the punishment of their iniquity, because they despise my judgments, and because their soul abhorred my statutes. And yet for all that, when they be in the land of their enemies, I will not cast them away, neither will I abhor them, to destroy them utterly, and to break my covenant with them, for I am the Lord their God. But I will for their sakes remember the covenant of their ancestors, whom I brought forth out of the land of Egypt in the sight of the heathen, that I might be their God. I am the Lord. These are the statutes and judgments and laws which the Lord made between him and the children of Israel in Mount Sinai by the hand.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Robert. See, Dave, we're starting up chapter 27, if you'd like to read a little bit.
I'll be glad to. God spoke to Moses, saying, "Speak to the Israelite people and say to them, when anyone explicitly vows to God the equivalent for a human being, the following scale shall apply. If it is a male from 20 to 60 years of age, the equivalent of 50 shekels of silver by the sanctuary weight. If it is a female, the equivalent is 30 shekels. If the age is from 5 years to 20 years, the equivalent is 20 shekels for a male and 10 shekels for a female. If the age is from 1 month to 5 years, the equivalent for a male is 5 shekels of silver, and the equivalent for a female is 3 shekels of silver. If the age is 60 years or over, the equivalent is 15 shekels in the case of a male and 10 shekels for a female. But if someone cannot afford the equivalent, they shall be presented before the priest, and the priest shall make an assessment. The priest shall make the assessment according to what the vower can afford. If the vow concerns any animals, they may be brought as an offering to God. Any such that they may be given to God shall be holy. One may not exchange or substitute another for it, either good for bad or bad for good. If one does not substitute one animal for another, the thing vowed and its substitute shall both be holy. If the vow concerns any impure animal that may not be brought in as an offering to God, the animal shall be presented before the priest, and the priest shall assess it. Whether high or low, whatever assessment is set by the priest shall stand. And if one wishes to redeem it, 1/5 must be added to its assessment.
Thank you, Dave. Let me invite David and Susan. We're now at verse 14.
Thank you.
If a man consecrates his house to Hashem, the priest shall assess it, whether high or low, as the priest assesses it, so it shall stand. And if he who has consecrated his house wishes to redeem it, he must add 1/5 to the sum
at which it was assessed, and it shall be his. If a man consecrates to Hashem any land that he holds, its assessment shall be in accordance with its seed requirement, 50 shekels of silver to a homer of barley seed. If he consecrates his land as of the Jubilee year, its assessment stands. But if he consecrates his land after the Jubilee, the priest shall compute the price according to the years that are left until the Jubilee year, and its assessment shall be so reduced. And if he who consecrated the land wishes to redeem it, he must add 1/5 of the sum at which it was assessed, and it shall pass to him. But if he does not redeem the land, and the land is sold to another, it shall no longer be redeemable. When it is released in the Jubilee, the land shall be holy to Adonai as land proscribed. It becomes the priest's holding. Your turn.
And if he will consecrate any of a field that he has bought, that is not from a field of his possession, to Yud-Heh-Vav-Heh, then the priest shall figure for him the count of your appraisal up to the Jubilee year. And he shall give your appraisal on that day, a holy thing to Yud-Heh-Vav-Heh. In the Jubilee year, the field shall go back to the one from whom it was bought, to the one to whom the possession of the land belongs. And all of your appraisals shall be by the shekel of the holy. The shekels shall be 20 gerah. Except a firstling of the animals, which as a firstling is committed to Yud-Heh-Vav-Heh, no man shall consecrate it. Whether an ox or a sheep, it is Yud-Heh-Vav-Heh's. And if it is of the impure animals, then he shall redeem it at your appraisal, and he shall add to it 1/5 of it. And it will not be redeemed, and if it will not be redeemed, then it shall be sold at your appraisal. Except any devoted thing that a man will devote to Yud-Heh-Vav-Heh from anything that he has, from human or animal, or from a field of his possession, shall not be sold and shall not be redeemed. Any devoted thing, it is a holy of holies to Yud-Heh-Vav-Heh. Anyone who will be devoted from humans shall not be redeemed. He shall be put to death. And all the tithe of the land, from the land's seed, from the tree's fruit, it is Yud-Heh-Vav-Heh's, a holy thing to Yud-Heh-Vav-Heh. And if a man will redeem some of his tithe, he shall add it to it 1/5 of it. And all the tithe of a herd or a flock, everything that passes under the rod, the 10th shall be a holy thing to Yud-Heh-Vav-Heh. He shall not inspect it either for good or for bad, and he shall not trade it. And if he will trade it, then both it and the one traded for it shall be a holy thing. It shall not be redeemed. These are the commandments that Yud-Heh-Vav-Heh commanded Moses for the children of Israel in Mount Sinai.
Thank you. That is not only our entire Torah portion for the week, it also concludes the reading of the book of Leviticus. So we have a special word of gratitude and strengthening that we say, and it is this, if you'd like to join me. Huzzah.
Huzzah beneath Hashem.
Strong, and we shall be strengthened. Well, I'd like to just open this up and ask you what you felt, what you experienced, what intrigued you, what provoked you, what inspired you in the course of reading through our portion. So go ahead, Margot. Yeah.
I found this last section very dense and full of laws that have to be remembered. all of Leviticus I know is dense, but this one I found dealt with land, with houses, with people, and I found it an awful lot crammed into a little space.
Good. Thank you so much. Thank you. Okay. It is a lot of material to like a simple.
Yes, and for the priests to remember, and for the people to remember all of that. How many, how much flour and honey is quite an asking, and for the priests to know remember it all, quite an accomplishment.
Thank you. Okay. Let me invite Dave Webb. Go ahead, Dave.
Well, kind of like Margot, I find this very confusing, and it's kind of like our current administration right now. How do you follow all this? So maybe it wasn't meant to be followed in the first place.
Oh, that's interesting. But why do you think it might be there if it wasn't even meant to be followed?
That's just one of the possibilities I threw out to consider.
That's, thank you. Okay. All right. Anyone else have like an initial
I have some initial, may I speak? Yeah. I really, I always get the sense when this vision of the Yovel, of the Jubilee comes along, it's like, everything is just, it's sort of wrung out of all of the experiences on Har Sinai, on top of Mount Sinai. And then suddenly this vision, to me, I always look at it as like, it's like a mandala vision that comes to Moses and he sees the 50. It's the counting of the Omer. Everything is kind of circling around, and it's this incredible vision. And yeah, it gets the terrible. I think this is one of the tochekas that we were reading just now. So this sense of like there's terrible rebuke. And yet there's like this vision of wholeness that, again, I think Moshe Rabbeinu wrung out to the last part of himself. There isn't, and then he sees this incredible wholeness of the Yovel. So anyway, I get that every time I hear this stuff.
So some of the image that I get from what you're saying has to do with a mandala, an encircling, a wholeness. And so one of the kind of visual images that you're sharing with me about the Jubilee year is like this return, this constant returning. And there is definitely something in there in that Jubilee year about it's like a reset. Things are supposed to go back to the kind of the sense of perfection that things were in until all the chaos of human behavior kind of disrupts everything, and really there is a sense of the capacity for a reset and a return. So circling back or something. So thanks
Yeah.
for that kind of image.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Robert, please share with us.
Yeah, this is always an interesting portion because I'm somebody who loves law. And I believe that was for that time, not for this time. But I think if we mine the concepts, what are the principles underlying it? They're reward and punishment, which underlie everything. So if I light a match and put it to my finger, I punish myself. If I stop breathing, I punish myself. So I look at it as mercy. These were tough times, pagan people, and he's telling them everything to do to prosper. We do the same thing with our children. The language is different, but I think the concept is the same. And so I know these laws oftentimes they're looked at as almost inhuman in some ways. But for that time, to me, I think it's just kindness. And what happens just if we don't pay our taxes? They put you in prison because there's reward and punishment. If there were no punishment, who would pay their taxes? Some of us out of duty and morality, but many, many, many people wouldn't. And when I look at the Torah as a whole, it is a whole. It has law, it has love, it has mercy, it has kindness, it has direction, it has education, it has learning, and it's capable of very, very, very deep, profound thought.
Thank you, Robert. So, in a sense, one aspect of what you're saying that I'm assimilating is that there's, on one hand, there's such a thing as coercive, arbitrary laws. You know, do this or you're in trouble. And then, but what you were also emphasizing, as I picked it up, was if you behave this way, there are obvious consequences to behaving in a certain way, and so in that sense, it's just laying out. Look, I've got this path for you. It's going to take you home, and it can make you happy, healthy, and fulfilled. But if you, as I think it was Justin and Linda who were using the words attend to. If you're not attentive, if you don't pay attention, if you're not mindful, if you don't live mindfully, and in tunement with this harmonious way of living that I'm set before you, there are going to be obvious consequences to it, and it'll be your own doing.
And I never think of it as coercive. I think of it as mercy. Absolute mercy, that it's made so clear. This is your protection. Imagine if the laws were not as strongly written. Generations following might say, well, had Moses spoken more strongly, more vehemently, we would have obeyed. I mean, every possible opportunity. And these were wealthy people. I mean, there was the Hebrew Commonwealth. These folks prospered, you know, I mean, they were rich people. So to me, it's grace, because I know that if I do certain things, of course, we've internalized the concepts as a whole, although many people disregard them. But without law, creation as it is would not exist.
Yeah, thanks, Robert. Okay, and let me call upon Carl, and then I'll get to David and Susan. Go ahead, Carl.
I guess as somebody's coming to reading this for the first time, the relative draconian outcomes for violating the laws are striking. I mean, there's no, you must get a sense that they're trying to manage a group that, except for these very harsh realities, would sort of run amok. And it surprises me the level of intensity of these punishments for violating the rules. It's not, you know, you'll go to jail for 20 years. Oh no, we're going to wipe out your family. We're going to burn your house down. Your children will die. You know, it's like, oh my God, you know, this is pretty profound stuff. And I guess to me, the fact that this was necessary tells me that they're sort of at a crossroads where that if they can't bring order to what may be chaos, that there is no hope for civilization. And it just strikes me at how potentially bad things could have gotten if these very strict, terrible things were not the consequence of disobedience.
Yeah, you know what you got me to think about, and what your comments are kind of an interesting follow-up to what Robert was talking about. But what you got me to think about is if you want to get home, if you want to be at home in this world, and you want to be living in attunement with the way this world works, you can't live obliviously. You can't live unmindfully. You can't live casually. To live in a way that is meaningful and fulfilling requires paying attention. And it's easy if we are unattentive to just fall into great tragedy. And so I appreciate what you're saying about how horrific and how consequential it is to live outside the path that has been set for us to get home and to live a life of fruition and happiness. So I appreciate that you focus on the severity of the consequences. Let me call upon David and Susan. Yeah. And you'll need to unmute.
I just love the concept of the Jubilee year, of being forced to reset. To me, every time I've had an opportunity to reset, it's it's been very fulfilling. It's been mind opening. It's been, I don't know, I can't explain it, but there's different opportunities as we go through life where we get to reset. And to have this laid down is that's what you've got to do. You have to reset. Is, I think, a gift.
And yeah, I like the word gift, the fact that we're given that opportunity, that our mistakes don't condemn us eternally, right?
Right.
We have this ongoing opportunity to correct and reset. And David, did you want to share? I've got Richard here. Go ahead, Richard.
Difficult portion. I conceive or think of this is written by a board. But a lot of people had their input in there. And it's not God that's punishing us. It's really clear if we don't all behave ourselves, we make a mess that can't be fixed very easily unless there's a reset. And it seems to me like 2026, it seems like the world now is suffering from people not paying attention to caring for one another. And it isn't God that's doing that.
Thank you, Richard. So here's what caught my attention as I read through the portion this year, and also as I was hearing it being vocalized and brought to life through your respective readings of it, which is the book of Leviticus starts out clearly with the attention being focused on the priestly group within the whole nation of Israel. And it seems to be addressing them, providing them with all these instructions, giving them all these various responsibilities. And then here in this portion, what I was hearing was kind of a shift in which it's now something's being directed to everyone. And that notion of it, and physically the image, the visual image I have of what's happening physically in that story is that the entire nation has been sitting still for some period of time. They haven't moved from this one spot they've been in during the entire recitation of this narrative of the book of Leviticus. And so one could imagine if I'm not a Levite, at some point I might just start kind of, zoning out and, well, this isn't for me, right? This is being directed at that group over there. And so maybe getting a little restless and, and wondering, okay, when are we going to start moving? When are we going to get back on the road here? And then all of a sudden the voice seems to now be directing itself to all of us. So all of a sudden I'm kind of perking up, I'm paying attention, and that notion that this language is all about how to be successful in the place that we're going to end up in, and the dangers of what it means to not be attentive to how to live in harmony with the laws of nature. And so now I'm for, oh, yeah, this is not just about a bunch of rules that the priests are supposed to do. It's now all about us too, and how we can be successful and how we can get home. And so now I'm sitting up straight, I'm paying more attention. And the fact that it is now future oriented is making me think, oh, maybe it's time to start packing things up. Maybe we're going to hit the road again. Maybe we're going to get back on that journey to the promised land. So that was kind of the drama is starting to build up. And then I remember hearing in the language of just a couple of minutes ago, when you enter the land that I'm giving you. Oh, okay. So we're going to get this land and it's being given to all of us. Okay. So now I better really pay attention and I'm getting excited. I'm getting optimistic. So now I'm listening to all that and I'm thinking, great, we left Egypt and we're heading towards this place that will be free. And this is going to be great. Not going to be a slave anymore. We're going to be free. And now this is starting to define something about things that maybe I hadn't thought of before. What does it mean to be free? Well, I thought what it meant to be free was I wasn't living in Egypt and I wasn't a slave and I didn't have to work under someone's whip anymore. And it sure sounds like being free is a lot more complicated than I thought. Okay. So, and to be free doesn't mean I can do whatever I want. To be free in this scenario, in this vision of freedom that's being presented to me, is not just about escaping chains. It's about living responsibly. That's what it means to be free. And so specifically what it means is that we're dealing first with the seventh year. It means you can't do to the land whatever you want. That's rule number one. And you can't treat it the way you were treated as a slave. You can't do whatever you want to it. It's not yours to boss around. It's mine, says God. You can partake of it. You can be a part of this, but you can't treat it the way you were treated back in Egypt as an oppressor. You have to let the land rest. That's the first thing we need to get clear here. Okay. And so this becomes known as the laws of Shemitah, the laws of the seventh year. And the word Shemitah is based upon the Hebrew verb shmat, which means to loosen. So this notion about loosening. So I'm glad we had this little conversation with Robert about, it's not mercy, it's not coercion, it's mercy that's in operation here. So it's when it says there'll be no sowing, no pruning, no harvesting, one could hear that and say, well, that sounds coercive, that sounds arbitrary. You're telling me what to do. But what it is, it's an act of mercy because it's mercy for the land. And look, it's going to end up being mercy for everyone. Why? Because you're going to learn to share. That's what's going to happen during Shemitah. Because I own a piece of land during the seventh year. Okay, I get it. I can't work the land to make it be more productive, but I can eat what's growing there. But I have to share that with the people that have worked there, with the people that are impoverished, with the strangers among us, with all my animals. I have to share equally with all of them. And in that way, I'm going to start learning something about what it means to be in a community. I'm going to learn that freedom involves being in community with other people and being concerned about the welfare of other people. And most astoundingly, this notion that during the seventh year, especially, you can't treat what you have owned as merely yours to do with what you will. It means the community comes first. And it comes in this startling expression in the book of Ecclesiastes, which in the study sheet I've placed there in 2a, where in Ecclesiastes it says, even the king is subject to the field. Meaning the rules of the field prevail over the desires and urges of the so-called owner of the field. And what really struck me when I realized that is to think, well, the book of Ecclesiastes is attributed to King Solomon. And King Solomon was the wealthiest of all the Jewish kings. And even he is acknowledging that I have all this wealth, and yet the only way that I can live in harmony with this path of Torah is during the seventh year. My needs, my urges, and my desires, and my willful control over this is secondary to the welfare of the community. But that to me it was stunning. And then this is this notion about what is happening here during this notion of Shemitah. We'll encounter here number 3 is 19th century Hasidic rabbi, the Sfat Emet, says this: the idea of Shabbat and Shemitah is one of nullification. This applies on both a national and individual level, requiring one to nullify oneself to the fear of heaven. To reach our innermost soul's connection to God, one must temporarily move beyond their ego and the superficial, often chaotic distractions of everyday life. Look here, the Sfat Emet is saying what the idea of both Shabbat and Shemitah is all about is a suspension of my imposition of my will on nature and people around me. Periodically, I have a protocol and a process that periodically enables me to restrain myself, to nullify those urges to control. And that's what Shabbat and the seventh day and Shemitah, the seventh year, is all about. To nullify our ego's attempt to exert control and power over the nature and human beings around us. And then, as Justin was emphasizing about the power of this notion of the Jubilee year, the Yovel, contained in there is this notion that all land that is assigned initially to the various tribes, over the course of years, those tribal lands will somehow become mixed because people owe money to someone in another land. And so therefore you mortgage that land to someone and they get to own it for a period of time. And so it gets messy. And so this notion of the Jubilee year is, okay, on the 50th year, we're going to have a reset. And that's what Susan was talking about. We're going to have this reset of kind of putting things back into the sacred order that was originally envisioned. And slaves are to be released. Debt is to be forgiven, as well as the land going through yet another period of cessation from all agricultural labor. So this verse that we have that we read, proclaim liberty throughout the land for all its inhabitants, we know is the verse that was picked up and was inscribed onto what became known as the Liberty Bell. The Liberty Bell, which was designed for a celebration of the 50th anniversary of William Penn's charter establishing Pennsylvania. It was rung by the abolitionists in the 19th century as a demonstration about the importance of ending slavery in the United States. So this is part of the American culture as well, our history, to have on the Liberty Bell proclaim liberty throughout the land for all its inhabitants. So what is happening is this understanding that the human beings, if left unattended and if left inattentive, we could be so rapacious, we could be so oppressive, we could be so destructive that these terrible things that Carl was pointing out, these terrible things will be the consequences of living that way. And so built into our calendar are these ways of trying to restrain ourselves from being that destructive. It means placing something other than our ego drives in charge. And so I just had this painting by Agnes Martin that I shared with you called Friendship. And Agnes Martin grew up in Saskatchewan and was a mid-20th century artist, and she leaves Canada, and she comes to New York, and New York art scene in the mid-20th century was dominated by abstract expressionists. And it was a very heady place because it was immediately post-World War II, and the United States emerged out of World War II as the dominant power in the whole world, economically, militarily, and it became the dominant world for the art scene as well, which was a substantial shift from Europe, in particular, a shift from Paris to the United States. And the art forms that developed in mid-20th century in America, especially in New York City, became ascendant, became the most important art movements in the world. And in part, this was formed not just from people who had been born here, but in part, the United States became so dominant in the art world, in part because of all those refugees who came to the United States from Europe, fleeing from Nazi Germany. So she encounters the abstract expressionist world as an art movement, and she's drawn to it because it's an art movement that focuses on not the external world and trying to replicate what one sees with one's eyes. It's an art movement that tries to explore what is happening inside of a person. And she's very much intrigued by that notion of exploring one's interior life and trying to represent that visually. But she's also a little bit put off, I have to say, by the actual behavior of some of the male abstract expressionists who would live lives that were could be rather rambunctious, rather sometimes out of control, sometimes very assertive of their ego in a sense. And so she leaves and she goes to New Mexico and she develops a kind of abstract art that is more restrained. She more minimal, much quieter. A lot of it with lines and colors, and in this one you can see the lines going both horizontally and vertically, but they're very faint. And so she's a painting in a style that is unlike the New York City expressionists, who were kind of very gestural in their work of art. Hers is doesn't announce herself as a personality. It's much more anonymous, it's quieter, and doesn't have that same triumphal self-proclamation that some of the other abstract expressions would do. So what she's painting here is a sense of quiet. And it's also a sense of the paint itself is doesn't shout. And so it was when her work was exhibited, people were complained about it and actually physically attacked her artwork because they were distressed by what's there? There's nothing there. And she understood that her work was often attacked for its emptiness. And what she said, it's important to put art before one's ego. And she wrote this: I have sometimes in my mind put myself ahead of my work and have suffered in consequence. I thought of me, and I suffered, and the work suffered. And for that, I suffered more. And as I read this, what she wrote, I think of what we've just had this discussion about, these terrible things in our Torah portion that were proclaimed would happen if all one thought of was me. There would be chaos and destruction and suffering. And it would be a consequence of our putting the drive and the rapaciousness of our egos ahead of our concern for nature and the people that we live in. So this is what the divine aspect of the universe is telling us. If you want to have a home, if you want to settle, if you want to have fruition and fulfillment, then the kind of sovereignty that you need to live with is one that's based on the released grip, the open heart, and the shared feel. And that is a direct challenge to the drive of the ego. It's a very difficult liberty that Torah is offering us. It's one that transcends instrumental concerns and merely transactional relationships. And yet that's the one that takes us home. This is a journey that we go on together because we need to help one another and we need one another. And most of all, we need to care for one another. And that's how we'll have a place that we call home. I'm so grateful to be on this journey with all of you. And I look forward to our next gathering. God bless you all. Please be well. I'll see you next time. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you so much.
See you next week. Good night.
Good night, everybody.
Thank you. Been a pleasure.